All right, welcome back to those of you online. Prasanna, thanks for hanging in on remotely as well. Uh, we've adjourned the mid-year budget committee meeting, and we are now into the elected officials' compensation discussion. I will turn it over to Deputy County Administrator Whitney Hale to do introductions and comments.
Thank you, Chair Pfister, and members of the committee. We're pleased to be here with you today and to walk through materials that have been prepared for you for your consideration with respect to compensation for elected officials for fiscal year 2027. But before we do that, I want to introduce our new HR Director, Susan DeJody. We're so pleased to have Susan at the helm of our HR department. She joined the county actually initially in a different role other than HR director, but we became aware of her background and expertise, and we're fortunate enough to have her join the HR team in July. And so we've just passed the 6-month mark, and I can't even begin to tell you all of the things that Susan has accomplished in her first 6 months with the organization. So we're really, really pleased to have her with us. You'll recall that last year we used HR Answers, a consulting firm, to facilitate the elected officials compensation committee process. Given the fact that we have thrown so much at Susan in her first 6 months on the job, we decided to continue that for this year. So Lori Grenia from HR Answers is joining us on Zoom. Lori, I believe you are in participant mode, and our AV operator is going to promote you and ask you to join the meeting as an attendee. If you can go ahead and accept that promotion, you will join us in the meeting and we'll let you do some, there we go. You've already been promoted. So Lori has prepared the materials for the committee consideration and is going to run through a presentation for the committee before we jump into data. Before I do that, I just want to pause. Susan, anything that you'd like to say or, in support of launching this year's effort?
No, I'm super excited to be here. This is a new experience for me. I do have a big public sector experience, but not doing this particular piece of it. So I'm super excited to be here. And I know Lori worked really hard on these numbers. So I'm hope to see what information we get from today's meeting.
Are you as overwhelmed as I am?
Probably not quite as much, but yeah.
Perfect. Well, Lori, we'll turn things over to you to get us started.
Great. Thank you all again for the invitation to participate in your elected officials compensation, at least the data gathering associated with that. For those of you that I haven't had the opportunity to meet, I am the president and owner of HR Answers. My background in human resources is predominantly in government compensation. Growing up, the majority of my skill set working for the state of Oregon in central compensation and classification. I have been with HR Answers for about 10 years, didn't start as its owner, just intended to be a consultant, and the new adventure of owning a business is now on deck. So I do enjoy the compensation component of it, and this is where Susan probably cringes and says, oh my gosh, ew. But I am an HR generalist. I am certified with my senior professional in human resources certification, as well as am I a certified compensation professional through the World of Work. Both of those certifications require ongoing continuing education to make sure we're up to date with what's going on out there as far as law changes. And I'm sure as many of you have experienced, the laws are not getting easier in the human resource area. They are certainly shifting and changing on a regular basis. But I do want to make sure that we go through and make sure that everybody's on the same page about what the foundation is behind why is it that you get to convene and have discussions about compensation for your elected officials on an annual basis. So for those of you who rode along with us last year, this is going to seem familiar, but we have just a few slides that I will share so that you can all be on the same basis and foundation. So first I'm going to ask, can you see that?
Yes.
Good deal. And then I'm going to change this to a presenter view. And can you see that?
Yes.
Okay. So I've already covered that information on the first slide. The things I want to talk about very quickly are governing statute. I'm going to stop and ask if there's any questions for that. what compensation best practices, the data elements that you have in front of you for consideration, and somewhat a recommendation, but also just a statement about what are the comparators. And then certainly we'll move into next steps for you guys to look at all that wonderful spreadsheet information that was provided ahead of time. So the first thing to know is the governing statute associated with this is Oregon-wide. Every county is required to appoint a compensation board of 3 to 5 members. They are to annually make recommendations for the compensation schedule for county elected officials or elected officers. And there's a specific outline of which officers. We'll cover that. They are to review the compensation paid to people in comparable entities. That would be the state of Oregon, local public bodies. And very important here is the and of this statement. You are also to look at comparable roles in private businesses. This is where this is why I've underlined the word and. This is frequently missed in the county processes, looking at private businesses. There's a complete acknowledgement by all individuals who approach this that elected individuals are certainly going to have significant differences in what their level of authority might be or the independence that they could utilize in administering their elected responsibilities. And that will be different than what private businesses have. But our legislature has said we will look at private businesses, and you will see that we have collected data with regards to that. Your board has to take into account the number of employees that are supervised, the size of the budget that's administered, duties and responsibilities, compensation that is paid to subordinates, and other appointed employees who serve in positions of comparable management responsibility. So all of that to say is the law actually follows best compensation practice, and we took into account all of these factors as we were looking at the data for your county specifically. The governing statute does continue to say that this committee has to make the recommendation to the county's budget committee. So this is not done in isolation. There are multiple looks at this. And then there is a line item specific to your sheriff, which is one of the elected officials you're required to look at, is that pay has to be fixed in an amount which is not less than that of any member of the sheriff's department. Now, Deschutes County is very smart and already has a target for compression. That target is that the electeds are sitting 15% above the next down the tier. Again, we'll talk about that because it is germane to one position, one elected role this round. But specific to sheriffs, this has always been an issue over the years in many different government entities here in Oregon where individuals who are making overtime frequently are reporting directly to the sheriff, and that overtime then creates a perception of compression. However, this is focused on base pay, not base pay plus overtime. So again, you guys already have some other policy that helps maintain this, but the law does require it specifically for this position. So as I mentioned, I was going to cover the jobs that the law actually says you have to cover, which is sheriff, county clerk, county assessor, county treasurer, and commissioner. We also, for Deschutes, look at the district attorney and the justice of the peace. Those roles are not required under law, but they are elected for your organization, and we have collected the same data in the same manner for those roles as well. So before I move on from that statutory overview, what questions might you have?
So just to confirm, the compression is a target, it's not a rule.
You have a target. I do not believe that this is written in rule, but I would defer to Whitney or Susan to enumerate on that.
You're correct, Lori.
Always useful to know that before we start debating.
Any other questions?
Nope, go ahead.
Okay. So next up, compensation best practice. And as I already mentioned, the law really aligns nicely with this. So it's not too difficult to navigate through what this looks like. But the very first thing we do is define comparables, which the organization has done. We did not change those comparables from last time. We'll talk about what those are. Considerations of the state, local public entities, and private businesses are what we mean by comparables. And we look at those comparable to duties and responsibilities, the overall budget of the county, and the employee count of the county. So duties and responsibilities is always the one that produces the most challenge. And while the law doesn't get down into the specifics, which thank heavens it doesn't, of is 50% comparable enough, is any of that. The rule in compensation is that 70% or better of the total job is comparable. Now, what that actually means is that the independence in decision making, the primary purpose of the responsibility, if supervision is included or excluded from the job, and the qualifying criteria to get the job. And this is where that statement that I mentioned before that typically causes a little heartburn comes up, which is that the law requires us to look at private businesses when we all know that an elected official in carrying out their elected official responsibilities is going to be different in the independence of certain components of their job. To meet the interests of the law, we find the next best comparator and the place where we're probably going to see some differences is the independence in decision making. However, this is the place where I like to call out, there are two roles typically that are elected that see significant variances in every entity. And they are the treasurer. I don't think you're surprised by this because you guys also have the opportunity to put your treasurer with other employment jobs, other employed jobs for the county, as well as do we typically see a lot of variance for the clerk. And that is, again, because of other duties that might get assigned to that role that are not as typical across every county. My favorite one with clerks is sometimes we actually see clerks responsible for human resources, or we see them responsible for all public records in the organization, not just those that are more traditional to the clerk's office. So there's a number of differences that we may come across. I will say treasurer is the hardest one for your particular county. There is a lot of variance in the comparable counties. And I can't say that in my experience, which is about 12 counties deep of doing this body of work, that it would get any better if you shifted your comparables. It is simply very different across each county. So all of that being said, total compensation does include a few different things. First and foremost, base pay, and we tend to look at the minimum and maximums associated with those, as well as do we typically look at a spread, how much can be made. I will tell you, most of that is not as relevant for elected officials because most of them have a single rate of pay. They are not on a schedule. So in some cases they are, in most cases they're not. This means that if indeed there is only a single rate of pay for a position, that is the rate we are comparing across all entities. So you are seeing single base rate and the fully loaded or the total comp base rate for each role in those spreadsheets. We do look at differential payments, longevity, and other types of payments when they are available, not only for Deschutes, but also in your comparables. And then benefits, specifically retirement and deferred compensation. So we're collecting all of this information. We're also working with your comparative entities to make sure that we have captured the information accurately, so we have confirmation from them. There's nothing planned that we can't see on a website or that wasn't made clear in any of the meetings they've had about a similar topic. So our recommendation this round is the exact same thing as that we did last time with your comparables, that we continue to use Marion, Lane, and Clackamas County. And then for private industry data, 2 different nationwide salary surveys, which are the Economic Research Institute and Comp Analyst. It is a specific tool within Comp Analyst, which is called Comp Analyst 360, which are the nation's foremost salary surveys associated with government and non-government work. They have thousands of contributors, but pulling relative job matching from that, also based on the budgets, employee counts, and then geographically leveled to the Deschutes County here in Oregon. So the committee is required, as we mentioned before, to look at the staff supervised in these and alleviate compression if possible. And again, you have that target of 15%. So using the same comparators every single time not only starts to give you a trend, but it also ensures that what you're looking at doesn't significantly cause deviations or inconsistencies in the comparisons to those subordinate staff, so on and so forth. As you all know, every county has the luxury of organizing however they see fit to get the work done, and there are significant variances county to county to county. Again, this is just one that you continue forward with these recommendations for the comparable entities. Any questions with regards to the data that we've been looking at and who those comparables are?
Just as a net, when most of the time when you're talking about comparables, you're talking about cross comparables. So we're talking about the counties and the others and the ERI and the comp analyst space. Then when you talk about the compensation of the staff supervised, do you do comparables for all the benefits that roll up as well? Specific programs, or are you generally doing the cross comparison rather than the vertical one?
I think I need you to ask that question again. Make sure I'm getting what you're after.
Actually, maybe the better thing that there was a specific example that I'm coming up with. I know that there are certain departments within the county here, notably the sheriff's office, that offer certain bonuses or benefits to the employees that are not also available to the sheriff. Does that come up in the compensation, and does that also then come up in the compression comparison?
So our recommendations are focused on base pay because the benefits that are offered generally are offered across the entire county for your organization, as well as are they in other counties. The specialty items are more consistently found actually in the electeds than they are in the positions that are reporting to the electeds. I do see what you're saying with regards to that, and there's a couple additional things that I want to talk about as we get into the data that I think will be relevant to your question there.
Yeah, it's more an aspect of it. It's I don't know if there's always possibilities for shenanigans. That's a quote from my fire department. But as you roll in, there's always opportunities in the contract spot to say, I want to negotiate this into a contract for the employees, and that's not going to roll up to the elected officials. It's not a good thing. It's not a bad thing. It's just a thing. I'm trying to verify what kind of thing it is.
Yeah, and you are right there. This is a point in time evaluation. One of the things I'm also going to talk about is the fact that the point in time evaluation we're looking at here is as of June 30th of 2026. That is different than what we were able to provide last year. We started this process sooner to be able to start this discussion sooner. What you will find if you talk with the other counties that we're looking at here, as well as many others, they actually haven't even started this process yet. So what is also missing from this information is any COLAs or cost of living adjustments that will be happening at the base pay level, most most likely for July 1st. Now, that data is likely going to be available to us in late March, early April. And so there may need to be a revisit of this data to determine whether you need to make adjustments. Along with that, Whitney and Susan have asked me to do the deep dive on the total benefits or those other components. 2 of the 3 counties have been able to supply that information. The one that I have outstanding is struggling because of a leave of absence that was unexpected. So we are working on getting that information put together to give you a fuller picture of total compensation, which is where we would be able to look in at things exactly like you're suggesting in the sheriff's office. There are times that those things roll up. Our goal is to be able to get you a total picture of what July 1st will look like. But again, it's only as good as the information that can be shared at the time we're collecting it. And yes, you're right. Bargaining could happen on the interim that would add something, which means you may need to look at it again the following year.
And Lori, just to jump in quickly to connect what you just said to a little bit of past process for this committee. Historically, this committee met during budget week, and so the discussion would happen very late in the year, and it was after departments had prepared their budgets, so there was some rework that needed to occur when adjustments were made. Our thought with knowing what we know about what Lori just mentioned related to COLA is we wanted to make sure the committee had the discussion today. If the committee comes out of today's discussion with recommendations, they will be used as the basis upon which to build departmental budgets that are impacted, those departments that house elected officials. Then, if we have COLA information, we will revisit the recommendations from this committee with the full budget committee during budget week in May, similar to the process that we've historically had, but it will allow us to have a little bit more accuracy in our budgets as they're prepared by departments and offices. So it's kind of the thinking of how we envision today's conversation flowing, knowing that we're not bringing you a full set of data related to COLA.
And there's never any fireworks once we take it back to the whole budget committee. You missed last year. It was fun. It is.
All right, Lori, I'll turn it back over to you. Thank you.
Okay, any additional questions? With regards to the slides, we'll move over to the Excel spreadsheets.
Yeah, I think we can jump into those.
Okay, so do each of you have a printed copy of the Excel spreadsheets, or would you like me to share those on the screen as well?
We provided printed handouts to folks in the room.
Okay, so I'm going to open the spreadsheets on my desktop so that I have them to refer to. So on the cover page, or the very first page, the first tab, which is our introduction, we did highlight in red just to keep everybody centered on the fact that this is data as of 6/30/2026. So we have been able to collect information and confirm what it is without COLAs. At this point, you see we've just listed again the positions that we're looking at: assessor, clerk, commissioner, DA, sheriff, justice of the peace, and treasurer. Population is one of the ways in which we look at those comparisons. And these are the updated population forecasts using the World Population Review, which is what has been used historically for this organization. These are, if you're looking at this electronically, each one of these hyperlinks that you see here are active and take you to the information that is suggested there, so that you can verify it yourself should that be of interest to you. I did mention there briefly, which is the second tab you had, the benefits. We are looking at these. So this information that's on the elected officials fiscal year 27 compensation summary of employee benefits, this is reflective of what Deschutes currently has for each of these roles. And this is what I'm collecting from each of your comparator counties. I am also grabbing this information from both ERI and Comp Analyst so that you have that as far as a total comparison. I think you will find, I've already got the first two in Comp Analyst and ERI put together. There are not significant differences, but there are a few what I would call discretionary differences, where maybe a person is provided a car allowance in one county and in the other they're provided an actual car, instead of having that fringe benefit write-off issue. So there's a number of those things, but once we have all that data, we will supply it for consideration. So I'm going to go to the page that says recommendation summary, and we can dig into each of these, but as a snapshot, there are basically 3 roles that probably need some level of attention, and there's a question mark on the treasurer for me. We're kind of on a bubble for that one. The assessor actually looks good when we're doing a base pay comparison. So your target is to be 105% of what the market is. So when I say you're 8% above, that actually means you're 13% above, because that includes 5%. Okay, 5%, you're over your 105% target by 8%. So that looks really good. But remember, we have that compression target of 15%. So we want to make sure there's a difference between that next level down and the next level up. You're at -2%. Once the county implements the market study in late June. So right now, if you went and looked at those positions and you actually get on your website and look at where is that secondary position, it's not going to show that it's in that place, because that increase has not been put in for the next level down position. But on June 22nd, it will be put in. And since we're trying to forecast for July 1st, we included that when we get into that spreadsheet. So this creates actually what's called true compression, where the senior position would fall below the next level down reporting. And so some kind of change needs to be made. And this is why I say up to 17%, because 15% is the target. 2% negative means the 17% would get you fully to target. But the discretion of the committee is what is needed in that one. As far as the clerk is concerned, you are doing fine. You're 2% above your target at base. Your commissioners, and I don't think for those of you who participated last time will be surprised about this, we didn't fully implement what may have been the optional move last time. As far as they were lagging last time, we didn't fully cover that lag. So you are still lagging this time and are now 13% below the 105% target. Your DA is 17% below, and again, similarly, a full catch-up change was not made last time. So this has grown, but in it, and we'll dive into a little bit about why this is growing so much. Your sheriff is sitting 7% below that 105% target. Justice of the peace, literally right on the mark, right at 105%. So you are on target for that. And your treasurer is sitting 2% below. Now, again, this is the one that I always say I have the hardest time with, because the jobs are just so varied across each of the organizations. So I want to go to the assessor detail spreadsheet first.
But hang on, I want to make sure
Yeah.
that, especially since we have a new member on the compensation committee, I want to make sure that that we got a good understanding of what happened historically last year. So just and now I need to remember everything. I think for the assessor, the clerk, the sheriff, the justice of the peace, and the treasurer, we recommended 0% increases. The district attorney, there was a minor increase, but I can't remember the number. It was 8 to 10%, I think. And then the commissioners, there was actually, out of the compensation committee, there was a significant pay cut recommended that did not survive the budget committee discussion, and it ended up being 0. Did I get that right?
I'm going to start. Oh, go ahead, Nick. Coming out of the elected official, so this meeting, the second meeting that this committee had last year, the recommendations were no adjustment beyond modifications to the DA and the commissioner salaries. and I'm reiterating, I think what you just said, but just pulling it
Yeah.
off my email. And then when that went to the full budget committee, you are correct that the proposal from this committee to the full budget committee ended up with a modification on the commissioner portion. But I need to go pull, unless Cam or Robert happen to have it, what that actual change was.
I think the commissioner ended up being it was flat in the end. Because any motions to change any of the salaries failed because we ran 2 or 3 of them. Something also makes me think, maybe not, but something also makes me think, didn't we take the DA down to 0 because that was part of what rolled into getting the deputy district attorney?
If I'm recalling correctly, there was an increase, but it wasn't to market.
Correct.
Yeah, I know there was not an increase to market that I
But
remember.
I do recall that I think there was some level of
Yeah,
increase, maybe.
I just don't remember that once it got to the budget committee, whether that actually survived and whether that went to 0 to go back and fund the deputy DA.
So my notes that I have, that I sent an email on May 20th to HR, giving them a summary of all of the personnel changes that needed to occur on 7/1. I have that elected officials, the budget committee approved 0% increases for all elected officials.
Okay, so yeah, so the DA raise did not survive because that got rolled into the deputy DA. Phew. Okay, my memory survived for another 6 months. Clean living, I suppose. Okay, Lori, why don't you keep us going if you want to hop to the assessor side?
Will do. Okay,
Oh,
so
actually, I did have one question on the annual comparison summary.
Yes.
There's a spot on comp analyst, specifically on the assessor. It seems really weird because there's a base pay at 176 and then a total pay at 147.9. And I just didn't understand why the total pay was lower than the base pay in that case.
Let's go look. Oh, because it's pulling in the wrong line item. That's why. Wow.
There we go.
The number on the actual assessor spreadsheet is accurate on
Okay.
the recommendations. I'm sorry, on the summary. That 147 should actually be 198,274. Excuse me.
Under the comp analyst one?
Oh, sorry.
Because the 147,946 is there. It's just there's a base pay of 176,214. I'm guessing that, oh, I see. That's just a miscount. It should be 141,710
Yes,
and that's
exactly.
accurate on
Sorry.
the main sheet.
Yes.
Okay, thank
Yes.
you.
I will correct that and send a corrected set for you all. Okay, so on the assessor, again, the only match we don't have is Economic Research Institute associated with this. There is, it's important to consider the fact that on the average plus 5%, that's the line that is the goal, 105% of market. You're 8% above that. You'll also note that, excuse me, down towards the bottom of the sheet, it says second in command, deputy director assessor. The salary that you see posted there of 182.57, that is the salary that will be in place for that role June 22nd of 2026. So that is yet to be implemented. So again, this is where if you go and look at spreadsheets or if you go and look at your current compensation plan, you're not going to see that number. Excuse me. And that is what's creating this difference between the assessor and the deputy assessor that we are recommending that you address. Again, the target is 15%. To bring it whole, it would be a 17% increase. So we would encourage that you take a look at making movement here.
So what changed from last year? Because last year we didn't see this issue. Did we miss it, or did something new come up?
So
This is,
the
not
sorry.
to kind of pull back to the discussion we had as part of the mid-year presentation, this is an impact of the wage equity project
Okay,
and that analysis that hadn't been done since 2017 for non-represented staff.
okay, so
We're
that's,
playing 9 years of catch up on that, and it's driving this compression.
okay. So that will be effective June 22nd, 2026, and then is there then an additional anticipated COLA that will be implemented for fiscal 27?
Yes,
Yeah, that's the 2.7%.
So let me make sure I'm parsing this correct. So the 180 is a June 22nd. We will also be expecting a 2.7 that goes on top of that, which is going to add another 3,600. So it's going to be in the 184, 185 range coming in, and that's before we make any changes to the assessor pay as is.
And I'm just confirming with Lori and Susan that the base pay listed for the deputy role does not include any COLA. Okay, and it's pure base pay. So yes, that is correct.
Okay. Are we okay? Do we want to go through everything and then come back and talk about it, or do we want to address it one way or another? What's your recommendation? I can't remember how we did it last year.
Typically, we've had the conversation by position because they don't really have bearing on each other. So, but it's completely the committee's call. I think also with respect to the compression that's existing with the assessor, it's up to you if you want to consider the county COLA, which is known at this point, or consider COLA in their entirety at the point that the full budget committee meets in May. So just kind of throwing that out there as an option for you too. And I see, I'll turn it back.
Yeah.
over.
Chrisana, your hand up. Go ahead. You're on mute.
Okay, thank you. So I had a question. The Nick Lilac talked about they're going to be doing an internal audit of compensation for the employees and the employee packages. So will that affect the people that we are looking at right now?
Wage equity, is that what she's talking about?
This is the market and wage equity project
Yes.
that I mentioned earlier.
Yes.
Go ahead, Whitney. I'll defer to you.
The impact of that project is the basis for the analysis that's been conducted. So there won't be additional impacts for elected officials. We wanted to make sure that those were brought forward at this time. So the numbers you have before you are reflective of that project and the impact.
Thank you.
And then very specifically on the, 180 and change, we'll just go that way because I can't remember what math I just did in my head. But for the 180 and change, is that specific to the person or is that specific to the position?
Well,
Stop 7, so.
yeah, it's a little bit of both because we're factoring the step of the person in the position and it's a range. On the elected official, obviously, those positions are not a range, it's just a set.
It's well, and so where we're sitting on here, let's make sure that we've got the picture in front of us. Our current assessor has decided that the retirement career option is better than the elected official career option moving forward. And so, yeah, and while votes are always tricky, the likely person that would be moving into it is the second in command that we're talking about, if I'm correct. So there would then be probably another second in command that would be coming in. The longevity and the step might be different, but effectively the salary is going to be about the same.
Correct. I think we're also looking.
And you can weasel it any way that you want. I know that it's hard to figure it out.
I do believe that we pulled step 7 of the range, and Susan's confirming that for this. So yes, but that's also sort of allowing the committee to look at the full range of compression that may exist and does exist today.
Well, I mean, the first thing is we wouldn't want to try and motivate somebody to run for a position by giving them a pay cut. That's Although that'll come up, I bet, Chrisana. Um, uh, but at least specific to the assessor, we probably don't want to do that. Um, so there is something that needs to be fixed there. I was just trying to figure out whether some of that compression would be alleviated. It sounds like the answer is no.
It's tough to predict.
Yeah, everything. The future is always fuzzy. Future is uncertain. The end is always near. Never mind. I won't be quoting Rockler. Yes, I will. Okay. Um, so let me look at my peers on the compensation committee, and I realize you're brand new at this. So, but your opinion's as valid as any is.
The only question I've
anybody
got
else.
is that part of this is based upon a COLA that's going to be determined in May? Is that what you said?
So the county's COLA is known and
Next Q7.
correct, but we are going to bring all of our comparable agencies, our peer counties. We will know their COLAs and we will bring that information back to the full budget committee when you meet in May.
Is it going to be different?
We don't know.
They very well could be.
Huh?
We don't know.
So why would we make a decision now? I mean, why not wait until then to determine that?
The upside of having recommendations coming out of the committee today based on this is that we are able to, when we budget for fiscal 27 and go through the budget building process, departments are balancing off of a number that's closer to what it will be.
Gotcha.
In essence, if you have some of these adjustments that are made, especially for certain positions, it'll have some budget impact that we're able to account for through the budgeting process, knowing that COLA is usually a much smaller adjusted number.
Okay.
So if, and I'll throw this out and see what everybody thinks. If we were to propose for any of these positions, let's just propose a COLA. We could, if we were voting today, we could propose something to say 2.7 or the returned COLA from the comparables, whichever is greater. And that at least gives us a number that is on the high end that could come in. And then when it comes to the budget committee might say, no, it's going to be, yeah, it's if the comparables return 4% and the county went, now let's just do 2.7, that could be voted in at that time because that is the final vote.
And Jim, if the committee was open to staff recommendation related to COLA,
We always are.
well, just not wanting to overstep, I think our recommendation would be that you align with the county's COLA because it's going to be consistently applied across the organization. So having one group potentially in a different space sometimes is complicating.
I know that there was some heartburn on that in the past. That was a party conversation as well. Okay. So back to it. What's again, you're looking at this with fresh eyes.
Well, I mean, if there's a reason to do it now, let's do it and let's just bite the bullet and get it over with. And as you say, we can come back and address it at a later date. That's fine with me. I just didn't know what the difference was. And it sounded like you were applying a different COLA to certain persons now versus what's going to happen later on. And I didn't want that to happen because it sounds like that runs into problems later on. So,
Dave, sorry to interrupt. Could you just move your microphone in towards the direction that was online? Well, thank you.
One of the things that you'll learn about all of these is that these microphones are very directional.
well, this is red and mine's green, and I was wondering about. They're both on okay.
As a guy who likes to lean back, I always get told, speak into the microphone. Anyway,
But everybody catch what I said? Yeah. I mean, I basically, I'm willing to go, let's go the 2.7% COLA now, and let's get that known and move forward. With
in the lease. So Christina, what's your take on this?
Yeah, I like going with the COLA. I think that is appropriate, but I think that as last year, I would like to have a discussion around the commissioner position. Dave didn't have the opportunity to hear our discussion about it last year, and so I'd like to bring that up again. That the commissioner position is unique in that it's an elected official position that is not intended to be a career position. It's intended to be a position of service to the public, and you answer to the public for that each and every election. And the citizens have decided to change the positions from 3 to 5. I do not think that the intent of the public was for us to just absorb that additional cost. The position job does not change by moving it from 3 to 5. The same job exists. And so I would like to move again that we take the 3 positions salary and add those together and divide by 5, because that would mean that we would have the same budgetary restraint for Deschutes County for the new commissioners coming in, and the commissioners that are running will know what the compensation will be. I think that's also very important, that they understand what it is that they are running for.
Yeah, hold that thought, because I'm going to have you pull the string on that doll again when we get to the commissioner discussion.
Okay.
But let's focus on the assessor and try and go through these one at a time. So we could do a COLA adjustment to the assessor, but that actually doesn't fix our problem, because right now the deputy assessor, and again, I don't have the math totally in my head, but it's in the 184 range. Started, in the July 1st when the COLA gets implemented. So we would probably, again, if we want to avoid compression, we would have to do a significant change. If we want to just get it above the second, so that we're not enforcing pay cuts if people look for promotional opportunities, we'd have to look and see what that number is. And I'm happy to have someone throw out a number, any of us, as a discussion for the compensation committee to consider. I can pull up my own calculator too. Google never lies.
What if we went at a 5% increase over the deputy? What would that get us to?
That gets us to at least, I didn't enter all the numbers, but that's in the range of about 185, a little less than that, which gets us above the 184, but not significantly above the 184. Although,
Now applying COLA.
well, now, yeah, now we're looking at at base pay, but we also want to figure out where that goes from a total longevity pay as well. There is the 401, 457 contribution that the assessor also gets, that it appears the deputy assessor does not get. Did I get that right?
Correct.
Longevity pay is longevity pay. That's based on the person in the position. So that would travel with the person, not the position. So 5% would get us slightly above, and then there's the additional 3%. 401, 457 contribution. So that does, at least from a TCOM perspective, get it up to probably about, yeah.
I'll just offer, there are some other benefits though that elected officials don't receive that.
Well, yeah, and this is, I want to make sure that we're having this discussion with all of them.
For example, like time management leave accrual, employees can sell back, and so that can salary. So it's the 3% for deferred compensation is legitimate. That's a real compensation, but there may be other compensatory benefits that other employees have that aren't reflected here. So it's probably best to stay focused on the base pay for that reason. But I would certainly defer to. Oh, I see her; she's shaking her head yes. I just
Okay.
offer that for your consideration as well.
So 5% puts us slightly above water. Why
don't I just go to 185 and why don't I go ahead and cut it to that level, and that gets you 4,000 to 5,000 above the deputy.
well, the deputy starting July 1 is going to be in the 184 range.
Well, whatever the COLA is on that, on the 185, so it'd be about 189.
Yeah, because they'll receive the COLA as well.
That's 189.
Well, actually, I want to verify that. So elected officials do not automatically get the COLA. We actually have to vote the COLA. So what we would probably have to do, and again, I'm open to options, but what we would probably have to do would be vote an X% raise, and with the addition of the county 2.7% COLA, proposed COLA for the position.
Right, exactly.
Okay.
So you go 185 plus 2.7 takes you about 189 or so.
So your proposal, not to put words in your mouth, but I will. Your proposal is a 5% raise and an additional 2.7% COLA for the position for fiscal 27.
Well, 5% raise isn't going to get you. You're going to have to take his salary, which is 176,000 now, and take it up to 185, and then add the COLA to that. And that'll get you to 189 plus some change. And that'll give you your cushion and your, take care of all that.
I did that wrong.
So I think the 176,214 plus 7.7% is the 189 that you're trying to get to. So it would be 5%
Okay,
plus the 2.7 COLA.
all right.
And that's for the assessor.
Yeah, Lori, go ahead.
So I'm just going to suggest a mathematical equation here make sure that you're all on the same page about what you want to do. If your deputy assessor, so I'm focusing on the number that's 182.57, is getting a 2.7% COLA, supposedly, that number is now 185,124.33. Then if I heard the potential recommendation correctly, we want to be at least 5% above that for your assessor. So if I take 185,124.33 and I add 5%, that takes us to 194,380.54. And then I would add your 2.7% COLA. So I'd do the increase, then the COLA, which is the most typical path, okay? Which would end up with your assessor at 199,628.82.
So say that percentage again, because it wasn't 5. What was it?
5% is what I added on top of the COLA increased deputy.
Taking the
That's a 10,000.
Then I added the COLA after that increase.
deputy times the 2.7, and then taking the 5% on top of that, and then giving the COLA on top of that.
So are you saying that the deputy currently makes 185, 194.33?
It
No,
will,
but
as of
on
June,
July, at the start of fiscal 27, their salary will be 185, 124.33. So I
Would
thought
you-
we had to do the percentage raise off of the assessor salary, not the deputy director salary, deputy
Right.
assessor salary. That's where I'm struggling. I'm with you on the number, Lori. I'm just trying to figure out how to get there from the assessor salary standpoint.
So then the question would be, if the number she mentioned, 199,628, whatever, what percentage of that is that an increase over the current base pay?
it's 10.31% and then add an additional 2.7.
Too high.
And see, here's the problem. If you
Yeah.
look at the comparables, they're dramatically less with a much higher population.
That's too high, I think, too.
Yeah, committee
I think
members,
what I
if
was
you look,
proposing was a salary of $185,000 right now. And then add the COLA to that of 2.7. And I think that takes you to around 190, 191, which seems more in line with what we're trying to do internally. May not fit as tightly as you'd like with the comparables, but it gets our salary in that range that we're trying to fit.
Divided by,
which would be the 5%, and then it would be the COLA when it comes due.
Well, I think the 5%, we can't be focused on that because that's going to take you back up to 199,000 and that's not right. I think
Okay.
what you need to do is work with your COLA, take your salary at 185,000 and add the COLA to that.
No, it's,
Got
that is 5%. 5% takes you to 185.
Okay, and then 2% should be another $6,000 on top of that.
So again, I'm trying to work ourselves to a motion here. Because then we can entertain a motion. So the motion would be to adjust the assessor base salary by 5% plus the county COLA of 2.7%. As base compensation for fiscal year 27.
Right, and that takes you to 191.
Second.
190.20 is what I'm calculating.
I saw a hand up in the peanut gallery.
Well, you outline that if we're looking at, they have Deputy, if she gets the job, take a cut.
I can summarize it.
There's information that is a little misleading on this, and happy to go for something.
To the
That audio is not being picked up.
The
so
assessor
could
was
you
saying
repeat?
that there's potentially some data that is not in here. Is it okay if he steps up to the mic and gives us that data?
That's exactly what I was going to suggest. Is that the discretion of the chair? And then if so, let's just have it on the record.
So, yeah, at the discretion of the chair, county assessor, please step up and identify yourself and deliver us some data. Lay it on me.
I'll bring a calculator next time.
I also brought Tana with me that she can better explain it as well. Some of the comparables too, I'll just make clear too, like the Marion County assessor I talked to, and there's 24 days of sellback that he gets. So there's an additional 24 days of pay that's not in here. I'm not sure about the other comps. So when you're looking at those comps, they're not exactly apples to apples either.
They never are. You try and get as close as you can.
Well, but that's pretty significant when it's about a $16,000 addition that's not included here. So,
Okay.
but do you want to explain the whole where you're at, the compression, everything else on the way that works? Because Nick touched a little bit on that sellback, but I don't think that necessarily is included.
Sure. So Scott gets his 3% deferred comp every year. All county employees, all non-represented county employees can sell back 80 hours, which is 3.4% of my salary. And then your final 3 years, you can sell back 280 hours, which is 13.5% of my salary. So if I stayed in my current position over the next 4 years, or if I took this elected position with the recommendation of the 15%, I would break even. So this is a pay cut for me, and in total compensation from the amount that I will be compensated in my current position to the amount that I would be stepping into. And my motivation is for the office. I'm hoping to break even. I wouldn't do it for a substantial pay cut because it would be a substantial pay cut. And so that's something I'll have to struggle with. My whole goal is to continue to lead the office in the direction that we've been going, accomplish all the goals that we have set in place. But I also have to be financially responsible to myself and my pension long-term after I retire. So I know how much I'm going to make now, and this position typically gets a cost of living where the assessor position may or may not. So, I kind of know what my financial security is in my current position. So to step out and know that I wouldn't even be paid, similar to a department head, that I would be valued at a different level. I know what my value is now from the county. And so it would be great if I was continued to be valued rather than not. So it's just something to take into consideration that I do have this other income that's available to me and that I take advantage of every year, and that my, so I just thought I would.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, sure.
The buyback, it's been a while since I've had to deal with this, but that's just time off, that's vacation time, stuff like that, that you choose not to take.
Right.
Okay.
They
And you
can,
cash it out at the end of the year. Is that basically what you're doing?
Yeah.
And you're making that decision to do that?
yes, I've done that consistently through my whole tenure here of 25
Okay.
years. And I will continue to do so.
Okay, so,
And just a little addition to that, I think you'll find that true of most people in management, because the county has a pretty generous time leave management program.
Which goes away.
These positions are more than 40-hour-a-week jobs, so it makes it difficult to accomplish the job and take all the time off you possibly could. It makes you a part-time employee. So kind of along what Ten is saying too, that, you know, this is elected, yes, but it's along the lines of a department director. And if you look at the class and comp study on where department directors are of equivalent staffing and everything else, it seems appropriate that there'd be parity to that as well, which hasn't been the case. And depending where you go with this, might not be the case as well. What would keep Tana equal, not making more, would be treating her equal to a department head if she's successful in the election.
do you get vacation time?
No, I do not.
You do not? Okay. So that's a big difference between the two positions.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, and that's where Lori was saying earlier that it makes sense to look at the base pay, but that's why, but you know, to some degree, we also need to understand the total compensation. Lori, I don't know if you have comment after the input here or not.
Yeah, I appreciate the statements, and that is exactly why looking at the full benefit summary across all the entities is important. But as you've already pointed out, a buyback program is at the option of the person. And so that will not be uniform across there's an opportunity to sell back, but it is not guaranteed compensation. They could also take the time. So we do need to do that analysis. And again, as I said, we're working on that. I think looking at staying focused on your base pay for right now is the only thing you have concrete evidence on. So I would recommend that you stay looking at base pay. And when that benefit summary comes forward, if you see significant differences that would want you to alter, that would lead you to altering your proposals, I would do that at that time based on that equal evidence from all comparators.
And we will have that by the May meeting.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Well, thank you for your input.
Thank you.
Yeah. And I just, yeah, I mean, you know, I don't know who else is listening online. If we suddenly see a bunch of other elected officials running down, we'll know. And if there are a bunch of other elected officials doing this, you guys need better hobbies. So right now, at least the conversation that we have is at 5% plus the 2.7%. And again, nobody's made a motion yet. Would we want to talk about an adjustment based on what we're hearing, or would we want to make that? Or I'm going to entertain any motion, but let's do a little bit of discussion if we need to beforehand. So, Dave, Christina, any?
I agree
feeling?
with Dave. I think we should go with the 5%, which is the 185, 124.33. It's a little more than the 185. But do the 5% for the assessor, and they will receive the 2.7 COLA.
Okay, so the motion would be a 5% increase and an additional 2.7% COLA per county COLA guidelines. So at this point, I would entertain a motion on the county assesses, county.
She made that motion.
Well, if you'd have to say so moved.
I'll say so moved.
Now I need a second.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Was somebody writing that down? Okay, good.
people.
Did you all write the same thing down? All right, there is a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? If not, I will call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, that is 3 ayes, and so we're at 5% plus the 2.7% COLA. And I will note that all of these discussions will be pending additional data that we will receive prior to the budget committee meeting, prior to or at the budget committee meeting. I always think this is going to go quick. Why do I do that? All right, let's go to county clerk. Lori, anything that you'd like to note about the county clerk matrix here?
There's nothing special on this one, other than to say you are still in alignment. You are exceeding your target by 2%.
Okay. I'm going to note that we were kind of a hanging panel last year, giving everybody a 0. Elected official or not elected official, and however much they want to do. And Chrisana, I'm aware that you'll pull the string on the doll here in a minute. I don't want to. My personal preference is not to continually say, thanks for all the hard work. Here's another 0. So I would be inclined to at least offer COLA for the clerk. But I've got 2 other people on the panel, so I'm interested in your opinions.
Well, from my standpoint, he's gotten the COLA. Has for a couple of years, it looks like. And I'm not sure I support that position.
Fair enough. Chrisana?
Yeah, I agree. I think that we should keep it at 0 at this point.
I would entertain a motion from the committee.
A motion that we keep his salary the same with no COLA.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? If not, I will call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 And I will count myself as opposed, but the motion passes. We're all one big happy family.
Gonna be here.
Okay, commissioners, time for you, Chrisana.
Well, I've made my point in advance. Sorry, jumped the gun. So I didn't know if Dave had any additional questions on my analysis or why I am making the motion. But I have made my motion, and so I'll need a second on my motion. But I can certainly have a discussion as well.
If we were to do what you said, we're going to take the 130,000, multiply that times 3 and divide by 5. What does that give us?
I was going to say we did this last year.
Yeah, we did. We did.
$94 per position for base pay.
That seems pretty low to me, especially when you compare it to the other, our comparables. That seems too low to me. If anything, you could make it the same as Lane and probably be justified in setting it at 115,000 with the justifications that you've outlined. That we're going from a 3 to a 5 person commission, and supposedly your level of work is going to go down. So you could make a pretty strong argument that setting the new salary rate at 115,000, but it's $78,000, man. That seems like a pretty big reduction in pay. Just my comments.
Well, and I understand that and agree, but I think it is a big reduction. Agreeing that it is a big reduction, but I also feel that this is not a position that is intended to be one that you sit in. It is a position of service. It is not a career position. It's a position of service. I can understand, though, that it might be a bit of a jarring hit to go that low. Lane County is the one county that, well, actually it's Marion County's closer, but Lane County has 5 commissioners. So that would be a little bit more aligned. Marion has 3. So I'd be open to the 115. How do you feel, Jim?
I was actually going to first ask Lori if she had any input. I should have done that before we started in on it. So I don't know if you've got any input that you'd like to provide, Lori.
I just more of a question. Has there been a discussion or has it been part of the county's suggested election materials to discuss a reduction in the responsibility associated with each of these commissioners expanding from 3 to 5?
No.
I don't think any of that is shaken out yet. So just to clarify the note, no, there has not been discussion on what the roles and responsibilities are going to be.
Correct.
Okay.
There's an acknowledgement that they each serve on 10 to 15 committees, and those 10 to 15 committees will be spread across 5 commissioners, but the meetings, the legislative activities, the community, it's fully expected to be a full-time county commission position.
Yeah.
So their level of work is roughly going to be the same.
Well, no, because the committees would be spread out. So you would have the committee assignments would be delineated from assigned to 3 people, it would be assigned to 5 people. The meetings would be the same, but the committee responsibilities would be diminished from assigning to 3 to 5 different people.
I'm not gonna
It's-
argue about what the nature of the job is really going to be dependent on the commissioners, and they haven't had that discussion of does anything change. So
I mean,
it's really for you to decide. I'm not gonna.
that's a discussion that will not likely happen until the 5 commissioner panel is entirely sworn in. I mean, so at this point, we're at the magic 8-ball reply hazy yes later. So we have to make a decision in the, on the basis, we're making the decision on the basis of the data we have. As we are told, we will get some additional data before or during the budget committee meeting. And at least in this case, there is then additional data that will be coming in the middle of the year. So we'll have to go on our particular quest on our own here. Now, from a Robert's Rules perspective, there is a motion on the table without a second. Is there a second to the existing motion of 78094?
I don't think anybody made a motion.
She actually
did.
did make a
did.
motion earlier. So there is a motion on the table. Is there a second on the 78094? If there's no second, then the motion would die.
I have further discussion.
Okay, so I am not hearing a second. So the motion does not the motion's not up for consideration. Are there any other motions that anybody would like to make in terms of commissioner salary?
Can I make a decision to talk about it?
Sure, if you'd like to talk about it before we make a motion, go ahead.
Okay. Maybe this is uncomfortable, but there's a decision that has to be made by the 3 commissioners as to whether or not we go to this from 3 to 5. Is that still yet to be made?
No, it's a
No.
vote.
It's a vote and it is going to be 5. It was decided by the.
There is
Right, okay,
there is a
right.
vote that has gone to 5. There is another vote that determines how that representation is done, which may or may not pass, but there will be 5 commissioners starting January 1, 2027.
Okay, all right. So that takes that discussion away because what I didn't want to do is influence the way people vote, the commissioners voted, but that's been taken out of our hands. So it may influence how people vote for it, but that's what we're here for.
My observation last year was because we, in a motion similar to what Chrisana proposed actually did pass out of this committee last year. And my observation in that was that would change the calculus of people who were potentially filing for commissioner to run this year. That observation is probably still there, but so that observation is still there, period.
Yeah, that's why I brought it up, because I think it is only fair that people who are running for a position know what the compensation will be.
Yeah, there was another, I mean, in terms of the discussion, there was the 114 number got bandied about as well from a lane perspective. Um, and I'm not totally against that. Last year I was up for 0. This year I was probably also up for 0 until we see what the shakeout is. But that implies that there could be a significant push that we would then do this time next year or soon after with another executive compensation committee, but or elected official compensation committee, but we'd be doing it with data. But again, I would entertain any motion that anybody would like to put forward.
Looks like Lori has her hand up.
Lori, go ahead.
Just as a point of additional information, I think Chrisanna, you mentioned that Lane has 5 county commissioners. So does Clackamas, if that's helpful in adding information.
Yeah, and Clackamas also has 427,000 people, and we have 214.
Do we know the employees in Clackamas versus the employees in Deschutes versus Lane?
I don't, but I'm in a ballpark, it's double.
Okay.
Hey, that's probably not far off that. It is also interesting to look at the deferred comp on the right side for.
Yeah, but we weren't supposed to consider that. I grinned when I said that. Never mind. I'm having fun.
I just think that we see our different department heads coming forward and saying, you know, we're cutting here, we're cutting here, we're cutting here, we're working really hard to work within the budget. The budget's getting tight. And so by increasing our numbers from 3 to 5, if we do not make a change, and I think it should be a significant change, all we are doing is pushing the ball forward on our departments and on the citizens and making it more and more difficult when we come budget time.
And this does come back to a comment I made in the prior meeting on because when you really look at the office of the commissioners, that's funded, I believe, entirely through ISF, correct?
Yeah.
So, I mean, any significant increase in the office of the commissioner is going to result in increased ISFs. Now, that gets peanut buttered across a lot of organizations, but it is a hit. I mean, we can acknowledge that.
Well, and I also think that, you know, when we are talking about compensation, that is why I brought it up first last year and then this year. I think that we are being fair and honest in that if you want to run for an elected position and you want to be of service, that you know what your compensation will be. And I think that in our discussion, I brought up, which of course our population is less, but the job, as you point out, is still 24/7. For the mayor of Redmond is $200 a month, and sorry, $300 a month, and for a counselor, $200 a month. So with each elected position, there is a compensation. Sometimes there is no compensation, but it is only fair that they know what that compensation will be. And of course, this committee then discusses. But I am still of the very strong belief that this should not be a position of a career, but it should be a position of service.
It's always useful to cling tightly to beliefs.
I know.
I'm a big supporter of it. I know, I am. So I'm still open for any motion or proposal.
I'll make the motion to keep the annual salary the same with no adjustment.
So that's at the 130,158. So 0%.
0%.
Is there a second? I will actually second that. So we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? If not, I will call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?
Nay.
Okay, so motion does pass. We are at 131,580.
No, no adjustment.
Yes, no adjustment. District Attorney. Okay, this time, Lori, I won't forget you. So um any opinions or anything that you'd like to say on this?
I think probably the number one thing is just the reminder that funding for this position is always unique. The state contributes a portion of it. The county provides then a stipend, which is how we get to the total base pay. You are seeing that the current state stipend is 179,678. I want you to also look at the bottom of the sheet there, that on January 1st of 2027, a 4% increase will be applied to that state portion of the salary, which will be middle of your budget year. So 186,866 is what that's moving to. So just know that that's down there, and that another 4% move is going to happen. Your comparator counties are receiving those same dollars. You are all tier 1 counties, and that's how it's the size of your population is how we determine which tier 1 or tier 2 gets applied. So you are lagging. You were lagging last time. It didn't get better magically on its own. So the consideration is up to 17%, knowing that 6 months later, that whatever position you're in will lag again by 4%.
No. Go ahead, Nat. So when you say 17%, you mean 17% of the total base pay, not 17% of the county stipend.
I mean, of the total base pay, you are correct. So it's more than 17% when you're talking about your county stipend.
Yeah, so that's a big old number.
And Lori, could you clarify for the committee if the 17% adjustment that is noted in the materials is reflective of the 4% increase that's anticipated on the state contribution or not?
It is not. This is where the rate will be on June 30th. And because this is a recommendation typically for July 1st for you guys, we did not include that last 4%.
Thank you.
Should have become an attorney.
My dad wanted to be an attorney, and he took a look at what. Never mind. And he let's just say he recommended I be an engineer. So
Wow, that's a tough one.
what we're looking, yeah, well, and this comes into, like I said, last year we recommended a increase, and it was a pretty significant increase. It was a 14 or 15%, I think, on our side, which was about a 7 or 8% total increase. That in the end got removed and went to zero because that got rolled into the additional deputy DA to try and make those numbers work. So I guess, Lori, let me ask a question, especially on the ERI, the general counsel versus the comp analyst, because those numbers are significantly different. But the ERI the ERI pulls the rest of the numbers down. What's the delta in the compensation analysis that makes them so different?
It's two different survey sources, and comp analyst traditionally has participation of higher end organizations, frankly. But this is data that's cut down to relative by budget, relative by staff numbers, relative to Deschutes County. So the combination of those two numbers is an accurate reflection of the market in its totality. I would not get too focused on one or the other. And because the number that's being put together is a simple average of all, they are all carrying equal weight with the counties.
I mean, and even if you took an average of the two of those, it'd be close to 300,000, which is closer to Clackamas than it is to Lane Marion or ourselves. I'm open to, Chrisana or Dave, I'm open to suggestions or opinions.
Well,
I mean, this is a tough one. Well, we wrestle with all of these, obviously, but we wrestle with these as we go.
it's like you want to take the average of Marion and Lane and then average that with Clackamas. And I mean, that gets you around 270, which is close to what I think you're recommending here with the 5% average. Is that right?
Well, the recommendation is up to 17% for the district attorney. And remember, that's 17% of the total, which we end up pulling a significant amount more of that because of the at 270, that would basically be adding 25,000. So we would go from 64,000 to 484, 90,000 approximately. So that's a 30% raise
Oh.
from Deschutes County perspective. I mean, and I appreciate that the state stepped up a whole whopping 4%. This burden's getting pushed back on the counties more and more as it goes. So look at it from what I'm going to say is for the two or for the three of us, let's look at it from right now, Deschutes County is paying 64,737. What would we want the Deschutes County contribution to look like? And then the state's the state, and that gets carried across all the regions. So the simple answer is, I don't know that there's an appetite to get to where the comps tell us we need to be. Having decided not to eat the whale, what elephant do we want to pursue? If that analogy held, I'm not sure.
Well, the state is doing the 4%. We could match that.
What do you think?
Yeah, I'm still looking at, the 5%. 4% works for me too.
Would we then also, is it 4% flat or is it 4% plus the 2.7% COLA?
I'd say plus the 2.7%. That would be my
I agree with
motion.
that.
All right, so I just heard you make a motion
Yeah,
that
so I move that we do a 4% county adjustment and a 2.7% COLA.
I second that.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? If not, I will call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 All right, motion passes.
This is a FYI, that calculation should be about 69,144.
Okay, so that would
4% plus the 2.7.
so it pushes it up about 5,000. So that gets him in the range of 250. All right, we are at sheriff. So right now so a few years back there was a significant increase to I'm trying to remember my history. A few years back there was a significant increase to the sheriff pay, but that was also in a year where we significantly increased pretty much everybody's pay. But I seem to recall it went up about 8 or 9%. Last year it was a 0, and part of the reasoning on that was that we would have a new sheriff in place. And there was an expectation that, one of the two sheriff's candidates, one was a captain and one was a sergeant. So it was so the sheriff's pay as is was a significant increase. Right now we have a sheriff in play, a very good sheriff in place. I'm going to speculate that he probably took a pay cut when he went from lieutenant to captain because he didn't get overtime anymore. But again, we're considering base pay. But then moving from captain to sheriff, because we see the captain right now as the top step 7 would be a 135.8. So a 211 still is a pretty significant salary bump in addition to some of the bonuses.
Jim, just looking at that in this instance for captain, you're seeing the change that min pay and max pay.
Oh, sorry, wrong one. 182. Thank you. Whew, I was like 135. They should pay more than that. Although don't pay 135 as a minimum more than into the budget because they'll say, never mind. Different meeting. All right, so we're talking, I'm sorry, 182 to the 211 would be what we're looking at. There are some now. What's interesting in here, I know there is no undersheriff, but in this current year, there was an undersheriff that was employed. So I'm wondering why we are considering the second in command as captain pay rather than the undersheriff pay.
Because we don't have the sheriff FTE filled at the moment, so we're showing the comparison.
But we did during this fiscal year.
Can you remind me though? I thought that the undersheriff was actually paid the same as the captain, but what we did was we did a 5% lead pay on captain. So
I'd have to go back and look.
I'm not recalling that there's actually another.
There might not be.
I'm not recalling. I just.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that we're truly doing apples to apples here. But it could be in the range of about 5%. So that's another 9. So that's the max pay would be in the 190 range. So 190 to 211 is still a pretty significant thing. And again, I'm just aware of the fact that there are some things that the department gets that the sheriff doesn't get, like for instance, the ORPAT bonus, which is 3%. So again, that's a total compensation versus base compensation. Lori, any comments that you'd want to make on sheriff?
No, the shift in this, while yes, was lagging a bit last year, Marion County did a fairly significant increase this last year with their elected official in the sheriff position, which is what's the primary driver to why you're at 7% below your target this time. But no other comments, no other special notices for this one.
Well, yeah, Marion made a significant increase, but they're still below where we are, it looks like.
We follow under sheriff.
Sure.
So the undersheriff is 27 and captain is 26 or 26, so they're just below.
Say that again. I'm not sure I grokked that.
So undersheriff is above the captain, but only by 1 pay grade, so about a 5% difference.
I get it. Okay. So it's basically it is close to the 190 range. Okay. Well, we're laying out the data, opinions, Christina, Dave.
I think we ought to go with the 5% increase and take his salary to 225
And is that 5% and an additional 2.7%?
plus the 2.7% COLA. That's my motion. here.
Christina,
I agree. I second.
All right, so the motion was 5% plus a 2.7% COLA. It's been motioned and seconded. Is there any further discussion? If not, I will call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? No. Motion passes.
For the record, looks like it brings it to 227, 564, 93. That much.
Which I'm gonna, and I know we're not doing comparables in the region, but that's still probably well under Ben Chief. But significantly above Sun River Chief, for instance. I'm not sure where Redmond falls in. All right, we're to Justice of the Peace. Justice of the Peace, this is reflecting a full-time salary currently the justice of the peace is a 0.6, right? Yeah, 0.6 FTE. The actual salary is 60% of that, correct? Lori, any additional comments on justice of the peace that we'd want to consider?
No additional comments.
All right, and I think the recommendation was that he's currently right around where he should be from a compensation perspective. So, opinions?
I don't think adjustment's warranted at this point, outside of a COLA.
Agreed.
Okay, so
My motion-
no adjustment or a COLA?
My recommendation is no adjustment in the salary other than the 2.7% COLA.
So the motion is for a 2.7% COLA adjustment to the salary.
That's right, yeah.
Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? If not, we'll call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 For the record, that brings it to 143,920.
Okay. And we are on to,
Full salary
Oh.
again, because he is 0.6.
yes.
Yes, thank you.
We're on the treasurer.
We are on treasurer. I was going to make a treasurer joke, but he already left. I was going to say, of course, the treasurer is difficult, but I got your back, Bill. So this gets even more arcane. So we have a very competent CFO in the county. Thank you, Robert, for all the hard work that you do. When Robert took over as CFO, he was not eligible to be the treasurer, and I think that was based on your time lived in the county, which is that, time of residency. I don't know how this goes now that you have the residency requirements. Does it revert back to the CFO or does it remain an elected position?
You want me to say it since you're a
Sure.
candidate? It does remain an elected position. What we've traditionally done, prior to Robert's, we are hiring Robert as the CFO, did also run as treasurer, and we provided, I think it was either $5,000 or a 5% increase on that.
To the CFO salary, yeah.
To reflect those additional responsibilities. When we didn't have that occur and we have a new treasurer now elected, that's when this decision was made for a 0.5 FTE with a separate compensation. It may have been on the salary schedule at the time. I think it probably was, but and now Whitney is going to enlighten us.
No, I'm going to add to what you said. I think our intent of the of one option the committee could consider today is that we would have both options available to us dependent on the outcome of the election. So if we had a CFO who was elected treasurer, we would likely follow past practice and could do that outside of this recommendation. This recommendation is based on the second model, which Jim described, which is to have, if there were to be an outcome of an election, which was someone is elected to the position that is not the CFO, I think this recommendation would carry forward. So in preparing the comps, acknowledging that we are likely to have a situation where either option is possible, we're trying to give the committee the information to reflect the current model, not the prior. Does that make it more clear or less clear, Jim?
We'll go clear as fog. Better than mud. Is that a decision of the committee or is that a decision of the budget committee, or is that a decision that's kind of out of our hands based on the election?
That is something.
Well, we recommend that we have an established compensation for either outcome.
Okay, so what I would, I like that. What I would propose is that we are considering right now the compensation of a 0.5 FTE full-time treasurer, which at a 1.0 equivalent right now is at 169.58. So let's discuss what we have in front of us. as we get clarity, because we won't have clarity by the time the budget committee's done anyway.
You know, it's a good question because I think the budget committee meets
I think we,
Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday of election, or no, it's maybe the week.
I think we meet the week
election.
before the
Okay.
election.
Last year would have been, but this year we won't have clarity.
Yeah. So let's just consider let's consider the 1.0 equivalent salary, knowing that it's a 0.5 FTE at this point. So right now the proposal was up to 2%. And Lori, is that 2% and then a COLA, or would the COLA cover the 2%?
COLA would cover your 2%. There's no COLA consideration in the numbers you're looking at
Okay.
here. So also, I would just say, when you say would COLA cover it, yes, if no one else gives one. And that is
good point.
unlikely to be the truth.
That's true. We're the harsh county. All right. I'm happy to consider opinions. Dave, Chrisana.
You first, Chrisana.
Okay. I mean, it seems to me that I am fine with doing either no change in it or 2% change. I'm kind of on the fence on that. I'm open to hearing argumentation on both.
I'll say my note says 0. We need to see what happens with the vote.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at.
All right. So is there a motion?
I move that we give fiscal year 27 adjustment recommendation 0% for the treasurer position.
I second that.
All right. So we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? If not, I will call for the vote. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right. Any opposed? No. Motion passes.
And Chair, I'll just correct myself for the record that if the CFO also serves as the treasurer, it's a 10% increase of the CFO salary. I was mistaken. I thought it was 5%.
And we'll clarify with legal what the best procedural steps are for us for this one, given where we'll be in May when we come back to the full budget committee. So we'll have that prepared and maybe touch base with the chair prior to that meeting on that.
So that goes through all of the procedural things that we were going to do, or at least from a salary standpoint. One, does that give you enough clarity to be able to start to pull together the budget? That's the goal of this. Yeah, we're not just here for our entertainment, although I'm pretty entertained. Yes, I know I'm weird. Any additional comments or any additional, well, first, any additional comments from the members of the committee?
Good process. Like it.
Yeah. Chrisana, anything?
Nope.
All right. Any additional business to come before this committee? Yes, sir.
Chair, I just want to say thank you for meeting early in this process because it does two things that we've heard about this morning. Number one is it informs the budget. Maybe not perfectly, but darn close. And number two, it does establish what the salaries may be for those considering running for office. So unlike in prior years when during budget committee week, and of course last year we moved it up. So I just want to thank you all for your time, for your service, and for being willing to make some of these at least preliminary recommendations, if not pretty close to final.
And I imagine I do speak for my two fellows or two peers to say that we consider this an honor and a privilege to be able to do this. And so anything that we can do to assist the county and simultaneously represent the taxpayers is important for us, and we take it seriously.
Agree 100%.
All right. 10 minutes later than we were all hoping, but we got started 20 minutes late, so we'll consider it a win. Go shovel some sunshine, Chrisana.
Yeah, it's 80.
Motion to close.
Yeah, I don't think we need a motion to adjourn. I think
I
we
know.
can just adjourn, right? All right.
Thank
This
you.
will adjourn the elected official compensation committee and the mid-year budget committee meeting. And so I will adjourn and say thank you for all who were watching.
Hmm.
Thank you.